The film takes place in the realm of Metalonia, where a long-standing demon known as Zal oppressed humanity, subjecting them to a life of slavery. However, a courageous warrior named Crone rose to the occasion and liberated the humans by wielding his mighty sword. Although Crone managed to defeat Zal, he suffered a heart-wrenching injury that caused him to bleed continuously for 7 days. The humans, in a desperate act, consumed Crone's blood and gained extraordinary strength. Witnessing the emergence of these superhumans, Crone passed away, marking the birth of the Barbarian race. Several years have passed, and the Barbarians engage in rigorous activities, such as shattering boulders and skulls, to warm up. An elder figure emerges and notifies them of an upcoming quest, urging them to train diligently. This elder singles out Ronal, a weaker barbarian, and assigns him the task of attacking a mannequin using an axe. Unfortunately, Ronal misses his swing, resulting in the destruction of various objects. Later, he confides in the elder, whom he affectionately addresses as his uncle, while struggling to lift a rod. His uncle imparts upon him the importance of bravery if he desires to embark on quests, while some other barbarians mock him due to his lack of muscles. Ronald persists in complaining, but his uncle tosses some weights at him. The barbarian stationed at the guard post notices an incoming vehicle and alerts the rest. The barbarians brace themselves for battle, manning the defenses, while the elder halts the carriage's advance. From the carriage emerges Master Florian, who reveals himself to be an entertainer to the barbarians. Initially poised to attack, the barbarians pause as Ronal explains that Florian poses no threat. They allow him entry, and Alibert, Florian's apprentice, becomes infatuated with a woman in the town. That night, the barbarians revel in a party, during which Gorak repeatedly strikes Ronal for his flirtatious behavior with some women. Meanwhile, a mysterious man gazes at the town before riding away. He rides to Lord Volkazar and reports that the barbarians have infiltrated their town. Ronal heads to the watchtower, deciding to take his uncle's place. From there, he spots the wicked army assembled on the hill and attempts to blow the horn, but lacks the necessary strength. Volkazar orders his men to rain fire upon the town, and they launch their catapults. Amidst the barbarians' enjoyment of the party, they wonder who arranged for the fireworks. Suddenly, the fireballs strike them, and the elder informs them that they are under attack. They hastily rush to engage in battle, but Volkazar's forces begin to trap them. Ronal clings onto the falling horn, inadvertently trapping Alibert in the process. He slides off the horn, and a group of soldiers prepares to attack him, only to be saved by his uncle. They find themselves surrounded by soldiers, and Volkazar ridicules the barbarians as pathetic. The elder attempts to fight Volkazar, but his sword shatters upon striking Volkazar's armor. Volkazar stabs him and orders his men to capture the barbarians and begin their march. As a soldier prepares to kill Ronal due to his small stature, a fortuitous turn of events occurs when a horn unexpectedly falls and crushes the soldier. Alibert emerges just as Ronal rushes to his uncle's side. Sensing the urgency of their situation, Ronal's uncle instructs him to seek the oracle, emphasizing that he is the last hope for the other barbarians. Eventually, Ronal's uncle passes away, leaving Ronal filled with sadness as he buries him. In a moment of determination, Ronal stands up and picks up Gorak's invincibility potion. While walking, he encounters Alibert, who insists on following Ronal against his will, driven by his eagerness to embark on a quest. Together, Ronal and Alibert reach a narrow mountain pass, climbing to its summit and entering a building where they find the oracle. The oracle instructs Ronal to wipe him after using the toilet, and once Ronal completes the task, the oracle imparts crucial information. He reveals that Volkazar's armor is impenetrable, and only Crone's sword possesses the power to damage it. Ronal becomes upset, considering the legend of the sword to be a mere joke, provoking the oracle's anger. In his fury, the oracle strangles Ronal, forcefully asserting that the sword is real and is the only weapon they can wield against Volkazar. The oracle then reveals that only a true warrior can wield the sword and ceases to float. Meanwhile, Volkazar's men transport the captured barbarians to his castle, where Volkazar confers with Gurazul, his sorcerer. Volkazar informs Gurazul of his success in capturing all the barbarians and their attempt to revive Zal. However, their revival procedure fails, leading them to realize that one of the barbarians is missing. Volkazar, consumed by anger, commands his general to locate the missing barbarian, shouting in frustration. Meanwhile, Ronal and Alibert continue their journey, with Ronal becoming annoyed by Alibert's singing. However, he soon realizes that Alibert's song is about Crone, the legendary warrior, and encourages him to keep singing. During their conversation, Ronal also discovers that the Book of Wisdom is located in Elvengard and suggests they go there to read it. As the duo proceeds, they come across several lifeless bodies on the floor. An injured man warns them to flee for their lives. With caution, they navigate the area, encountering more corpses along the way. Suddenly, a female warrior launches an attack, demanding to know Ronal's identity. Ronal, claiming to be a traveler, and she explains to him that the men had challenged her to a duel. Moved by Ronal's tears, she decides to spare him. Alibert joins them, requesting to accompany them on their quest. Recognizing Ronal as a barbarian, the warrior named Xandra agrees to assist him and introduces herself. She reveals that they can find a guide in the next town. Upon reaching the town, Xandra prepares to confront the people inside a building, ready for a fight. However, Ronal refuses to engage in violence, leading Xandra to reluctantly agree not to fight. Inside the building, Ronal approaches a fairy and asks for a guide. The fairy informs him that only one guide remains and directs him to a different room. In that room, Ronal encounters the guide named Elric, who behaves oddly at first. After Ronal seeks his assistance, Elric agrees to help, and they reunite with Xandra. However, a man challenges Xandra to a fight, but Ronal reminds her she promised not to cause any trouble. Ronal attempts to mediate, but the man punches Ronal in a sensitive area, leading to a physical altercation. Just then, Volkazar's men storm into the building, attempting to capture Ronal. Xandra swiftly beheads the man holding Ronal, and chaos ensues. The building catches fire, prompting Xandra and the group to make their escape before it explodes. Meanwhile, Volkazar learns that the target, Ronal, is collaborating with a formidable warrior, and that they have managed to escape. He commands his subordinate to apprehend Ronal and the assisting warrior. On the other hand, the group traverses the desert, with Elric leading them for several days. Elric attempts to communicate with a lizard, but it bites his tongue and scurries away. The lizard leads them through a rocky passage, revealing the entrance to Elvengard. Elric explains that the entrance is guarded, and the Guardians will assess their height. If they fail to meet the Guardians' expectations, the entrance will crush them. Filled with fear, Ronal persuades the group to find an alternate route. Reluctantly, they agree and climb to a higher point, but the ground splits open, causing them to fall. Elric informs them that they have offended the Guardians, and they hastily flee as the walls close behind them. Miraculously, they narrowly escape the collapsing entrance. Xandra scolds Ronal, emphasizing that dodging problems is not the way of a true quest. Elric leads them to the Elven Tower, revealing that the Book of Wisdom resides in the top chamber. Ronal recalls that he possesses Gorak's invincibility potion and decides to use it to bypass the guards. However, the potion fails to provide complete protection for his groin area. Nonetheless, he successfully evades the guards and reaches the tower. Ronal enters a room where elves are busy at work, skillfully dodging various objects as he ascends to the rooftop, where the Book of Wisdom awaits. Ronal tears a page from the Book of Wisdom and attempts to make his escape but accidentally falls through the roof, landing on a mousetrap. The startled elf screams, attracting fairies who shoot arrows at Ronald. The arrows hit his groin, causing him to fall out of the tower and collide with various objects as he slides into the river. Emerging from the water with the torn page, Ronald impresses Xandra. Despite being in pain, he removes the arrows from his groin, while Elric reads the torn paper. They discover that Crone's sword is buried with him on the Mountain of Eternity, and Alibert mentions that the mountain is nearby. Xandra admits she was mistaken about Ronald and acknowledges his bravery. She sits beside him and asks about the other barbarians, to which Ronald describes them as strong and fearless. Xandra opens up, revealing that she must marry a warrior who can defeat her, although she has defeated everyone who has challenged her. The Shield Maiden elders had sent her away and advised her to find a husband. As Ronald listens to Xandra, he wonders how love is connected to her story. She expresses gratitude for being able to share her problems with someone and admits that it feels good to talk to him. Suddenly, they hear a strange sound from above and wonder what it could be. Ronald tries to wake up Elric, who is sleeping, and just as they are about to be attacked, a flying monster snatches Elric while a soldier captures Xandra. Ronald and Alibert manage to escape and find themselves in a cave where they are apprehended by several women. Alibert recognizes them as Amazonians, and they are taken to meet their queen. Initially mistaking Ronald and Alibert for ugly women, the Amazonians rejoice upon realizing they are men. The queen orders them to be taken to the mating chamber. Meanwhile, Volkazar's soldiers forcefully bring Xandra into the castle, catching Volkazar's attention. He attempts to touch her, but she breaks free from the soldiers and fights back. A battle ensues, and Volkazar's weapon gets lodged between some rocks. Xandra tries to escape him with her axe, but it shatters, and he knocks her down. Volkazar threatens to kill Xandra, but refrains, asserting that she must obey him because he defeated her. Meanwhile, the Amazonians bring Ronal back to his room, where he clutches his groin in pain and tells Alibert about Xandra's predicament. Ronal insists on rescuing her, but Alibert expresses his desire to stay with the women. Angered by Alibert's indifference, Ronal storms off alone. However, Alibert soon regrets his decision and decides to join Ronal in his mission. As Alibert tries to catch up with Ronal, the queen enters his path and attempts to seduce him. Alibert manages to escape her advances, but the guards begin chasing him. He hides among the rocks and is startled to find Elric covered in dirt. Meanwhile, Ronal climbs to the top of the mountain and enters a cave, discovering a tomb filled with statues representing the original barbarians. Ronal notices that Krone's body is holding the sword and tries to collect it. However, the sword slips from his hand and falls to the ground, where Xandra picks it up upon emerging. Volkazar laughs triumphantly as Xandra hands him the sword and they apprehend Ronal. The soldiers take Ronal to the castle, where Gurazul takes a drop of his blood to continue the ritual of resurrecting Zal. Volkazar declares that Zal will grant him divine power since he has brought the children of Krone as a sacrifice. Meanwhile, Alibert and Elric arrive at the castle disguised as guards. They manage to enter the castle with a group of guards, and Alibert observes the barbarians being taken to the top of a mountain. He enters the castle in an attempt to retrieve the sword, but is caught by some soldiers who try to kill him. Alibert distracts the soldiers with his singing and seizes the opportunity to grab the sword before making his escape. As Gurazul continues the ritual, Alibert arrives with the sword, freeing Ronal. The general approaches Alibert, who now wields the sword. Ronal attempts to attack but misses, inadvertently releasing the other barbarians who then engage in a fierce battle with the soldiers. Volkazar orders Xandra to fight against her fellow barbarians, but Ronal intervenes, stopping her from attacking. In the chaos, Ronal and Xandra fall into a building. Ronal questions Xandra, asking if she is willing to kill the only person who cares about her just because she lost a fight. He saves her from being crushed by the rocks, but she becomes trapped underneath them. Gurazul sees an opportunity and instructs Volkazar to drink the blood of the barbarians. Volkazar obeys, consuming the blood and receiving Zal's divine power. Transformed into a giant demon, Volkazar launches an attack, declaring that everyone will now obey him. Alibert informs Ronal that Volkazar's forehead is his weakness and instructs him to stab it with the sword. Ronal mounts a flying creature, soaring towards Volkazar's forehead to make the decisive strike, but he misses. The sword falls to the ground, but Xandra catches it and defies Volkazar's orders. He grabs her, and Ronal clings to his hand, desperately holding onto Xandra. Seizing the opportunity, Ronal picks up the sword and races towards Volkazar's forehead, removing his mask and delivering a fatal blow. Volkazar initially laughs, thinking nothing has happened, but then he suddenly explodes and perishes. As the smoke clears, Xandra rushes to Ronal, believing he is dead. To everyone's surprise, Ronal suddenly awakens, and Xandra kisses him, declaring that he has won her heart. They all celebrate the victory. The barbarians return to their town, where Elric offers them massages, and Alibert revels in his newfound popularity with the ladies. Ronal marries Xandra, and the barbarians hail him as the bravest among them all. The end. Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos, and please make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.